Welcome to the Coaching Podcast, Coaching for Success in Sport and Business. Your host is Emma Doyle, the energy and high performance under pressure coach who is a world leader in unleashing human potential. Buckle up for this high octane session. Let 'em have it, coach.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Coaching Podcast. My name is Emma Doyle, and I have the pleasure of interviewing, I would say, a very good friend and colleague from the tennis industry, Ajay Pant. Thank you so much for joining me, Ajay. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Emma. Thank you so much for having me. Always look forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Ajay, I'll jump straight into it because your impressive bio I'll have to pre-record because it's so long and impressive, of course. But look, the first question, Ajay, is the Vegemite question. The Australian spread, you either love it or you strongly dislike it or you've never tried it. What's your take on Vegemite, mate?
Well, I'm American, so it's peanut butter and jelly. How's that one?
Never tried it?
I have tried it. It's an acquired taste.
It is. So because you answered that way, my friend, you can choose either. Well, actually, no, let's be honest. I want both examples. Your worst coaching moment and what were the lessons, and your best coaching moment and what were the lessons. But you can choose peanut butter or jelly first. I don't mind. What story do you want to share with the coaching podcast first?
And just for clarity, are you talking about me as a coach or me being coached?
I don't mind either or. It's any example that comes to mind. Up to you.
So certainly I can probably start with the best. And both of us know there's so many because, you feel privileged, you can help people. But I'd like to think, and both of us can name drop, who we've worked with or who we've traveled with. But to me, one of the more touching ones is when I was first starting off. I'd left. Arthur Ashe had passed away. I'd left voluntary at that point, but I was just joined TCA in Midtown, and it was a very small club in Kansas City, and had a chance to work with a young man who I didn't realize this, but was dealing with some pretty serious issues in terms of the brain and in terms of processing information. And I just didn't know that, and I have no formal training. He just came into the group, Dave, and we just made it work. And he went on. It was a Special Olympics somewhere in this country. I can't remember where, but he got a nice medal. I forget, silver, gold, whatever the case is. And he mailed the medal to me. So I didn't quite know what to make of it. So I called his mom and I said, look, I mean, he's a great kid. But she goes, you've got to understand, because of the situation medically with the brain. She said, you don't understand. And I still struggle with it. They go with the medal. The only thing he cared about was that you are recognized by him because he feels that close to you. It's got nothing to do with coaching or any brilliant tactics or strategy. It was just pure sheer, he loves you and he wants to give you this because it means that much to him. And you kind of sort of, I didn't know I was doing this, but you kind of sort of changed his life. So, I mean, what more can you ask for? I've kept it because, as a human being, it's like, well, wait a second, I can't take your medal. This is yours. I mean, send me a thank you card or something. But no, that was one of the more potent ones to understand that I thought I was teaching him tennis, and that was not what I was doing at all. So really, when I was a young, and I might add a very young coach, I had the privilege of working, not exclusively, I was just one of many, many coaches, working with a lot of very strong up and coming juniors. And if I kept track of at 12 and 13 and even 14, where I would tell someone who, wanted, their goal was to go pro and, be ranked 1 in the world or 10 in the world or somewhere in the top 50. And I was very young, as a disclaimer. But if I kept track of how many of these young, incredibly good players, I went with, well, I don't see that. I was very young. I don't see that. I think, we need to have you more look at a D1 scholarship or something. And obviously, I was completely wrong. So some of them who once they, became very, very big names, uh, they would gently remind me of what I had said. And of course, now we know so much more with sports sciences, and we understand, it's a late development model. This is not, but I did that a lot because I, I just I just didn't see much. Now, obviously, at 12, um, pre-puberty, especially as you know, once the body changes at at 16, it's a different person, it's a different brain. I didn't know that back then, so I'm guilty. I did that quite a few times. Was very young, and but the coaching moment for anyone listening is, do not get judgmental. And none of us has the right to start saying, well, this will not happen or this will happen. Just let things evolve, and be a coach. That's your role. You're not there to say what will, you'll be number one in the world is equally silly, as opposed to, well, I don't see you doing that. I think you'll be a very good fit for a strong college. So uh, that's my hall of shame.
Hall of shame. I think many of us can benefit from that. So just staying on that just for two minutes, I'd love to know, how do you answer that question these days? How can we help our listeners because that's such a common question. So I have to stay on that. Just so if I was a student, I say to you, I want to be top 10 in the world, and you're looking at me, I'm 12 years of age, and you're thinking, oh, subconsciously your subconscious bias kicks in. So how do you answer that question, especially to parents? What would you say?
Well, it's a darn relevant question. One, you have to be supremely disciplined to give a good answer. Number two, you've got to know your stuff. You've got to be involved in legitimate long-term athlete development, or what we're calling American development model now. If you're not supremely confident and you just kind of make up stuff, then that's not fair to your student. To be more specific, great. Okay, that's fantastic. I'm glad you're thinking like that. Let's break it down. So what do you want to see happen in the next 2 years, 1 year? How about next month? How about this week? How about today? And the dads and moms have to be involved in that conversation, because it cannot be the dad or mom saying, well, this is going to be the diet, and the kids barely potty trained. That this is what you can't eat fries, and on Sundays you'll practice. It's like, no, I don't need any of that nonsense. I need a complete alignment, the good old triad, if you will. Once that happens, again, I'm supremely confident, like you, in terms of I will do whatever it takes, but it's got to be student centered. So if I'm not doing what is absolutely in the best interest of my student, I will, and I will walk away from the situation. I cannot. That's where the discipline comes in. That are you prepared to walk away? Because if this is not going to be the best thing for my student, I'm not going to do it.
A little bit of wisdom, which I knew we were going to get on this episode. I'm so excited. All right, the next question is what I call the sliding doors question. It actually is the reason you are on the podcast, because somebody else, one of our previous guests, yes, John Borden, mentioned you in his sliding doors moment. So I said in that moment, I should get AJ on the podcast. And here we are. I want to know, what is that moment in your life? And I know you've had many, but is there one or two significant moments you could share with us, what we call sliding doors? So your life's heading one way, and then something or someone happened. You know the question.
Sure.
Could you share with us?
Yeah, that's for me. It's a easy one. I was trying, and I was on a path to go to medical school. That was I come from a long line of family, and everyone's a doctor, and it was just a given thing that, and I was I was doing fairly well academically, I wasn't in med school, but that's where I was going. And I spent a summer uh, teaching for this gentleman, Welby Van Horn. Um, really, he's passed away, but he was just one of these no nonsense. But the guy, obviously, in the world of uh, coaching, technical things, not necessarily play based, but the guy was phenomenal. So I spent the summer teaching for him in North Carolina. I was just trying to save some money, to, I don't know, go buy pizza in college. But at the end of the summer, I don't know why he singled me out of all these folks who were, uh, and I was doing okay, but I certainly wouldn't say I was any stellar or anything. But he pulled me aside and he said, what are you going to do? And I go, well, Welby, I'm going to be a doctor. And he said, well, you'll probably be a pretty good doctor. I go, well, yeah, I mean, yeah. He said, have you considered teaching tennis for a living? And I go, well, no, of course not. I mean, and he was the first person who actually stated that you'll be a good doctor. He goes, no question. Because I see you will probably be better than anything else you do as a coach, who's going to be coaching tennis. Because he just saw something there. And on a dime, I changed everything. Because I respected the man so much, and why he would take the time to talk to me. I mean, he's got all these big time coaches and big time students and big time names. I'll never know, but um, I was able to thank him when good things happen in the industry. He's a very very gracious, very gruff, but very very gracious. But I'll never know why he did that. But that literally changed. It's like whoa, and that's what I did.
Just graduated. Can you share a little bit about? Do you remember that moment with John as well? Like, I mean, it sounds like you paid a similar situation forward.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I hesitate to say I would change someone's life as much as Welby changed mine. I think it's unlikely, but certainly John, who is a terribly close friend, uh, is almost my little brother, if you will. But yeah, it stands out like a sore thumb. He was taking the bar. He was taking exams. He was going into law. He came in to work for us very, very part time. And as we saw what he was doing, and it wasn't so much on the court. He's very good on the court, but it was much more about his just people skills and how he dealt with people and how much he really cared. That and he's a pretty darn good player, and he's very good on court. He's very sincere on court, and he really cares about coaching. And he is incredibly coachable. So I remember vividly, and it was probably like at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. We all just hang around and talk. And you know, I realized you're going in for the legal profession. And I said, I don't know anything about that. I said, John, I've been in this business for a long time. And I said, I just want you to know you bring a lot of skill sets, which we don't see very often in this business. So I go, what I'm saying to you is, if you choose to, said, I think you'll have an incredibly productive and a bright future, not just on the court, but the big picture, and really doing what a lot of us do with managing and growing people and programs. And he, he obviously he outperformed. When I left and I joined Lifetime, it was just no brainer, just put him right in that spot. And he outperformed there. And then of course he's now the CEO and the president of a very prestigious, uh, worthwhile organization. But it seems like yesterday, and I don't think he was sold right away. I mean, it might have been one of those, well, and I remember vividly saying that after he said, John, what I'll commit to is, if You trust me. And that's, don't say you do till we really understand what that means. And if I have trust in you, which is going to take time, but if we both agree that this is something you feel really good about, then I will commit to you. I will absolutely work with you, and not as a hit and miss, but a very formal. We're going to do this because, gosh darn it, I'm giving you my word. This is going to work for you.
I love. The next question, AJ, is in 1 to a maximum of 3 words. What do you think makes a great coach?
Trust, trust, and trust.
And now you're allowed to expand a little bit if you want.
Well, when it comes down to, and again, I really believe in this. There's all, for any of us, including you, when you study coaching behaviors and you study commonalities and the best coaches, sure, we have so much research and so many things. Trust is not defined as a one way. If I'm coaching Emma, if I do not trust Emma, and I'll run right through a wall for her. And if she doesn't trust the process and doesn't trust me, that he will never ever do anything that will hurt me in any shape or form in life, then the coaching is going to be superficial, in my opinion, or it's not going to be meaningful. But if you have that connection and there's a commitment, we are committing. I'm committing to you, and the mentee tells the mentor, I'm committing to you. I think it takes time. It's exhaustive mentally, physically. People need to understand this is not, well, we're going to schedule a time for half an hour. You can't. You need to be there. Then good things will happen. If you don't have that trust, in my strong opinion, everything else is just, we're just kind of checking off boxes and hoping something happens. I do not. I just don't know how you would do it without that two-way trust.
What's that one question that sparks your curiosity?
Why do you do this? And I want to know. I want to know what you eat for breakfast, what kind of milk you drink, when you have your coffee. I want to know exactly what you do and why do you do it. And the responses, you can imagine, it's everything. And I like to dig. So someone goes, because I love it. What does that mean? Why do you love it? What does that mean? Do you keep track of time? If I didn't pay you, would you still do it? Tell me more. Tell me more. Well, because it's a noble thing. What does that mean? So that, because I really want to understand why and why and how and why. Most of the folks who I respect immensely and I've had the pleasure to work with, they've always really freely given their time, because I just want to improve. I just want to get better. And I look up to you, and I don't want to waste time with superficial conversation. I need to know why. I just like to probe, and I want to learn, and I want to get better. And I'm not very good at a lot of small talk.
That's why I've enjoyed our conversations over the years immensely. It's deep curiosity that we both share for each other's journey that is what makes a two-way communication street. I love that. If Arthur Ashe was with us still today, what do you think he would say that makes a great coach in 3 words or less?
Hands down, one would be the trust. Hands down, it would be, this has nothing to do with tennis. Tennis is a vehicle that will change and save lives. He believed that from the core of his being. If he was remembered as a great tennis player or one in the world, these are his words, not mine, he has failed. It was all about, are you making a difference in a child's life? I absolutely know. To him, tennis was all about, I want you to go to college. Whether you go on an academic ride or tennis ride was not the issue. Tennis will get you into college. So the trust was just, we're talking about changing lives. We're not talking about tennis anymore. And I had the privilege, along with many others, to oversee the collaboration Arthur had with Nick. It was a very big national ash voluntary. Um, it was just humbling to see how potent the sport is. But if there wasn't that unconditional trust, especially with the students, and you didn't get the point that this is not about tennis, it has nothing to do with tennis, it's just a vehicle. And if you weren't completely, totally sold on this is all about making sure you get a meaningful education and you become a good person later in life, then what the heck are you doing? And yeah, it was pretty neat to be around the man because he lived and walked his talk.
Yeah, yeah. And interestingly, when I asked Nick that question, he said belief in students. So we've got some beautiful, beautiful messages there from some of the greats. Could you share next? I'm interested around your thoughts and exploring a little bit more the difference between a coach and a mentor. I know that we mentioned off air that sometimes the word even mentor is a little misunderstood. Yeah, I'd just love your perspective on that question.
Sure. Well, I'll go a little bit differently, but tell me, and I think I'll answer your question. Um, a, a a true coach, not a tennis pro who's looking for an hour of income. A true coach, in the truest sense of the word, is probably going to be a mentor. But mentor and mentee, because you got to understand, it is going to drain me physically, it's going to drain me mentally. I will lose sleep over things you do or don't do. And I'm guaranteeing this. There'll be times you're not going to be happy with me. I'm making a commitment. You will grow because you trust me. If you don't grow, it's on me. Did you really change someone's life? And if you didn't, then you're not a coach.
Mm. Yeah, so many valuable lessons within that, and just the commitment into saying yes to being a mentor is so huge that I really appreciate that. I would love. I know we're rounding this podcast already. I feel like I need part one, part two. Anyway, I won't push my luck, but I feel like leadership is something that I just want to finish on. I have a philosophy. I think the leader as coach is the way of the future. So I'd love your thoughts on one of my statements there. And what do you think are some of the biggest challenges, maybe the top one or two challenges facing leaders today?
Sure. And obviously, I don't have as much of the depth that you do with your new venture, but I have presented, and I've also done some modules, not all, with the whole notion of what is leadership and what does it mean. When we talk about leadership, it has nothing to do with the leader, nothing. And again, there's books out there now on the notion of servant-centered leadership. If you are not growing your people, you're not a leader. It's the process. It's what do you have in place that will grow your people. That's all. That's all any good leader cares about. I'm going to grow and grow and grow my people. Everything else is a byproduct. Lifetime and any other company, there's also the word love that's tossed around a lot. But it's defined. It's not a love as in a romantic love. It's a love because I want a culture where people genuinely go, you know what? We have all kinds of differences, different personalities, but I love working with you. I love working here. That's important.
Yeah, super important. Well, on that note, love, trust, sincere, and being coachable, just some of the many through lines throughout this episode on the coaching podcast. Ajay, I appreciate you. I do love you. I do love hanging out with you. I think you're a beautiful soul, and thank you for everything you do, not only in our industry, but in leading people. So thank you.
Emma, it is such a pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me on. And I mean, I have the privilege of calling you a close friend. So you tell me what you need ever, and I'm there for you.
Thank you. Right back at you. All right, everybody. Bye for now. Bye.
The Coaching Podcast is sponsored by Transition Coach for Athletes, a global coaching, mentoring, and US college sporting scholarship placement service. The service helps athletes navigate the often challenging world of choosing your best college fit while maximizing sports performance. Visit www.transitioncoachforathletes.com. That's the number 4. If you or your company are interested in sponsoring the Coaching Podcast, reach out to info@emmadoyle.com.au.
Yeah. So when I was a very young,
Sorry, one more thing, AJ. When your head faces forward, it's much clearer. When you turn your head like that, it goes weird.
so I should just stay like this and keep talking.
But use your beautiful smile and you be
Is it okay if I breathe?
sorry. I just want to
No.
have the best sound. I want to capture your wisdom so beautifully.
There's not much wisdom, but yeah, that's kind.